Hi, it's Grace from the CSC, and we're here today with Elizabeth Naumovski, VP of Marketing at Caldwell Securities Limited. Elizabeth also serves as Investor Relations for Urbana Corporation, a majority shareholder of the CSC. Before working at Caldwell Securities, Elizabeth was the host of Toronto Speaks Personal Finance and was also spokesperson for Lazare Couture, a Toronto-based fashion house. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring Elizabeth in to speak with me today is because of her vast experience in both broadcasting, fashion, and then finance, which is very interesting. And the first question I have for you today is, I saw that you climbed Stromboli. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Italian, and you say it way better than me. An active volcano north of Sicily.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that experience?
Absolutely. But can I just go back?
Yeah.
Doing spokesperson for Lazare Couture and hosting Toronto Speaks Personal Finance, that was all part of my outside business activity while I was still working at Caldwell.
Oh, I see. Wow.
So that's still while working where I work on a daily basis.
Okay, great. And is that hard to kind of maintain that busy schedule, doing both? Like someone can do that?
It's always good to be busy.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Right?
That's
you
true.
make time for everything, working out, being busy.
Less time to watch Game of Thrones.
Okay, Stromboli.
Yes.
Okay, I went to Sicily with a girlfriend of mine, and we decided that we wanted to climb this active volcano. And it was incredible because it's in the Aeolian Islands, and you have to go to Taormina in Sicily, and then you take a hydrofoil for, I can't remember how long it was. It's kind of a blur. Take the hydrofoil there. At sundown, you start climbing because it's so much cooler. Right? Because I think it was 40 degrees Celsius every day when we were in Sicily. It was really, really hot. And then you factor in the humidity. So you climb up and you look at Stromboli, and it's really interesting because it is so steep that in order to climb 1 kilometer, you have to zigzag to the top. And I think it took us 3 hours. It's a tough climb.
Wow.
Because you've got the humidity, you've got the heat, you've got the steepness of the volcano. But when you get to the top, and if you are lucky like we were, you just see it smoldering and you see the lava dancing. It is quite an incredible experience. Wow. And then you watch the plumes pop up as you get to the top as well, right?
And does it make it even hotter because you're near lava?
No, actually, it's kind of windy, and we all had jackets on, and then you kind of sit there and enjoy and, breathe. Yeah. And then when the sun comes down, you kind of slide down on the heels of your boot, your climbing boot, and with a little light, one of those miner's lights.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Really
But
nice.
the other thing is when we climbed up, our guide was telling us that Bono from U2 had done the climb. And I don't know if it was a month or a week before we did. And he apparently, climbed up there singing Christian hymns the whole time, was not out of breath like we were. And he was there with his son, and apparently he enjoyed it, and he got there much faster than we did.
Wow. Well, I wonder how he got, what kind of assistance he got going up the mountain. I'm sure some more.
No, I think doing, live shows and your cardio is right. When he's running around the studio, the stage for hours on end. I think that kind of builds your cardio, right?
Yeah, for sure. And how old were you when you climbed the mountain? Just because I'm thinking of doing the same thing, but I don't know.
I'm not giving you my age, but it was 2009.
Oh, okay.
So 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. Me and my friend want to go to Italy, but I didn't. I don't think we have climbing any mountains in
Doesn't
mind.
matter.
But
Just
that's
do
impressive.
It. You know what? Take a deep breath and do it.
Okay. Well, so I just want to kind of talk a little bit about your experience in broadcasting. Like your background is broadcasting.
Yes.
You went to school for
television broadcasting, so it encompassed media law, media ethics, and marketing and advertising.
Wow, that's impressive. And when you were in school for broadcasting, did you ever think, okay, you know what, I want to be in finance?
No, because finance scared me. I was terrified of anything to do with finance, and I actually, when I left my first broadcasting job, I went to work on Canada's first daily business show. And I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go work on a fashion show. But I took the job because it was $10,000 more. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll I'll learn something. But it was not my first go-to, and it was not my first love.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, and how did you make that jump from broadcasting to finance?
I lost my job. So I lost my job, and they closed down the whole TV show. It was called Business World, and it was on CBC News World and was owned in conjunction with Southern and aired on CBC News World. And after 8 years, they canceled the show. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. And at that time, all of these new specialty channels were popping up. And I couldn't wrap my brain around the fact that there were X amount of advertising dollars. And now you had 200 new television studios or specialty channels that would be sharing in the pot of the advertising dollars.
So you almost felt like it was going to be a dead end anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
So I knew that a lot of the producers that worked for us had gone and written their Canadian Securities course. So I asked if they could put that in as part of my severance.
TV producers doing their Canadian Securities course. Why do you think that was?
Well, they need to understand business, right? If you are working on a business show, you need to understand, the
context.
Well, a financial statement. You need to understand earnings. You need to understand so many things. I mean, you're not just writing. If you want to get in depth and know about companies, you're going to need the whole background to it, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. That's
so
smart.
Most of the producers would go and write their Canadian Securities course so that they actually understood what business was all about, what was Bay Street all about, what was Wall Street all about, what's an IPO, like why do companies go public, why do certain companies do really well and why don't they? I mean, you need to understand the roots of it, right? And that's why they did that.
That's true. And I want to hear more about that, but we're going to take a short break.
Public Entrepreneur Magazine chronicles a bold and exciting new chapter in the Canadian Securities Exchange story. With over 500 public companies and share turnover measured in the billions, we're proud of our reputation as the exchange for entrepreneurs. Public Entrepreneur Magazine gets you up close and personal with a focus on topical stories and interviews with the charismatic entrepreneurs that make things happen. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure to get your free copy available on thecse.com.
Welcome back to #Finance. For those of you that are just joining us, we're here with Elizabeth Naumovski, VP of Marketing at Caldwell Securities. So Elizabeth, let's pick up where we left off. Okay. Speaking about, your jump from broadcast to finance. And I guess what I kind of want to know is, was it scary for you?
Yes.
When you made that jump?
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified. And I think when I first started working, this will be 22 years for me on Bay Street. And when I first started working here, I was terrified of picking up a prospectus and reading it. I was actually terrified of a lot of stuff to do with finance because I didn't understand it. And typically with most of us, when you don't understand something, you don't want to learn about it. You're afraid to learn about it. And I didn't want to read a prospectus. I didn't want to touch one.
Because it looked boring? Or because you were just scared of it?
Because there were so many pages to it and I didn't understand a lot of it.
Right.
And the other thing too is, when I came to Bay Street, I think I walked around, with that glazed look, like, the deer in the headlights for 6 months thinking, what have I done with my life? Oh my. Because you have to remember, when you come from broadcasting, how many times there's like, hey, Grace, let's have a meeting today. 1 o'clock? Yeah, 1 o'clock works for me. 1 o'clock rolls by. It's like, yeah, I don't feel like having a meeting. Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. When you say 1 o'clock on Bay Street, it's 1 o'clock or 10 to 1, The jargon, so much jargon on Bay Street, very different than what you find in the media, right?
Wow. So did this influence your show then? That finance is personal with like financial literacy? Was it that experience? That's why?
That, you know what? That is one of the key reasons why, because I didn't understand. And I felt that if I was afraid by it, there would be other people because, I'm not that different than anyone else. We all go through certain experiences. I may be a little bit riskier than others. I may be a little bit conservative than others. but I think we're all pretty fairly similar.
So that's what led you into the idea of finance is personal.
Right.
What you had learned when you first entered Bay Street was the financial jargon and...
Yeah, but through the years, though, I have also hosted different shows. As you said, Toronto Speaks Personal Finance, which is an hour live phone-in show. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I worked on Moneyline. I did it for a year full-time, and then I filled in for Linda Leatherdale, through the years. And that was like a 10-year stint. But oddly enough, through my television broadcasting, when I worked on the daily business show, when the show canceled, everybody kind of goes their own separate ways because everyone's looking for a job. Everyone's trying to, feed their families or, pay their rent. And we all went our own separate ways. And oddly enough, December 2017, I got this cryptic email from the technical director that worked on Business World with me 20 years after the fact. We'd never talked to each other.
Wow.
So he sent me an email and he said, hey, are you still interested in doing a TV show? And so I emailed him.
Did you ever ask him, how did you think of me 20 years later?
You know what happened?
What happened?
He was working at Rogers in Mississauga, and everybody at Rogers Cable 10 lost their job, and that's why the show got canceled, because Rogers changed their mandate. And he was talking to, I believe, the producer of my show, Toronto Rogers. And I guess they were just brainstorming and my name popped up. And so he reached out after 20 years and said, do you want to do a TV show? And I said, yes. And he said, you've got carte blanche. Think about what you want to do. I'm good with anything. And I thought, let's really ramp up the financial literacy and let's try to focus on women because so many women end up retiring in poverty in Canada because they don't understand finance or how to write a check or, what all that means. And even though I do only have female guests on the show, and there's a bit of a skew towards women, I make it easily understood by everyone. I mean, I've had a woman out of RBC in Alberta who on Twitter told me that, her 13-year-old son walked into the room and she was ready to wrestle the converter away from his hands. And he said, hey, what are you watching? And sat down and watched the show with her and then started asking her about finance.
Oh, wow.
And then I've had some other people say to me, I love watching the show because I'll sit down with my mom, we'll get a cup of coffee, and we watch the show, and then we discuss the show and finance. So even though, I try to just promote women on the show, it's for every Canadian in the country.
Yeah, because I think you were. It was a show that I was watching with Hasima Lookman.
Hasima Lookman,
yes, and she was saying it's not that hard. If you have a question about finance, get YouTube.
Yeah.
Get on YouTube.
Yeah.
Look it up, find it. And so you're kind of, that's cool. You've got this show that's got all of these terms and you're kind of like a dictionary to go to or refer to.
That's actually really nice to say. It is like a dictionary because I try to make the show educational and each episode is focused on a specific topic, right? So if you don't know, just watch the show by yourself, right?
Exactly.
And if you have questions, I'm easy to find. People will find me on LinkedIn or they'll DM me on Twitter, right? And they've done that many times asking questions.
Yeah, and I mean, the show was very interesting. I watched it and it was really great. You don't speak too quickly, which is really great. And the topic was, which I feel strongly about, is children learning financial literacy.
Yeah, it's important.
I didn't learn about it in school, and it would have been really awesome for me to have learned that or had it been a subject in school for us to know. Because once you just like yourself, I mean, I had no finance background. I started as a receptionist and it was scary for me too when I first entered Bay Street. I remember the day that I, walked on Bay Street for the first time, my eyes like a deer in headlights. You're just like, wow, what's going on? What is this? And you're scared, you don't know anything about it. And so children learning more about finance in school, I really feel passionately about it. Like it's something that should be done.
I think it's really important. And, you raised a really good point here talking about deer in the headlights. Everyone goes through it. And if I can talk to you about different shows, we all have these thoughts in our head, right? But sometimes we forget to ask somebody or we don't know who to speak to. I mean, all you have to do is go to YouTube, Finance is Personal, my name. And it's great because there's a show on, it hasn't aired yet, but it's all about STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math.
I can't wait for that one.
For young girls. And why is it important? Why is it important to know the difference between cohabitation and getting married, because the rights are completely different. What's the difference between, having life insurance and critical illness insurance? If you are single and you don't have children, do you need life insurance? No. But do you need critical illness or disability? I mean, there's so many things out there that a lot of people just assume is the answer. And it's right there at your fingertips.
Or just too scared, because it's a scary topic, right?
My mother always said, if you don't know, ask.
Or don't say you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always say that too, right? Especially when I talk to a lot of people.
It's actually the first thing I learned on Bay Street was like, if you don't know, just say I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so what? No one died. It's all good, right?
But when you're young, you're trying to impress people and you're just like saying I don't know.
That's impressive though. When you say I don't know and when you're asking questions, that's impressive.
Yeah. And so just going in, I found it very interesting as well in the show that you talked about coming from an immigrant family, and the lessons that you learned as a child growing up about finance. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. My parents met. It's a really weird story. They met. Next day they were engaged, and the next month they were married, and then they left the country. Were in a displaced persons camp and then ended up coming to Canada. And they had a suitcase, $50, barely knew each other, didn't speak the English language, didn't have any family here, didn't have any friends here. It was just the two of them and their $50. So I was always raised that every penny counts. You save every penny, right? And I remember when I was younger, the laws were different for women. In order for me to get a credit card, I was 18 years old, and I couldn't get a credit card unless my father co-signed for me. And so I went to my dad and I said...
Now you can just they're like in vending machines.
Now they just throw them at you, right?
I was at the Bay the other day and they're like, do you want a credit card? You'll get a percentage off. I'm like, are you guys selling? Like, what?
Yeah, so when I wanted one, no, I couldn't get one. And back then, either your husband, because you got married when you were really young, or your father had to co-sign for you. And my father said, no, I am not co-signing for you.
Were you mad?
Oh, yeah.
It was because your friends all had credit cards.
Well, yeah.
You were trying to fit in.
And you're 18 years old, and all of a sudden your dad's saying no. However, he did say, cash is king. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. And that is always stuck in the back of my brain, and it's really done well for me throughout my whole life.
Wow.
And my mom basically took me to a bank when I was 9 years old. Opened up a bank account for me and explained saving. And so those were the two pillars for me. Those were the two things that kind of, helped navigate me to where I am these days, right? I live my life without any debt. And I still, if I can't afford it, I don't buy it. And quite frankly, if it's not on sale, I won't look at it.
I love that. No, I brag about the sales. They'll be like, my friend was saying, women usually brag about the designer that they're wearing. You brag
doesn't mean you're not wearing a designer.
Yeah, it's like, but you brag about the price that you pay. Like you're like, I got this, and
but you know what, Grace? We all work hard for our money.
Exactly.
So is it not better to buy, 3 items for, let's say to $600 at 80% off instead of paying $3,000.
Yeah. No, exactly. And if it's quality too, it's just being there at the right time. But the thing too is it takes more time to be like that. And we live in a time right now where a lot of people my age like to read fast things, like list form articles. Everything's fast. No one has the attention span to kind of... So would you say that that's kind of a skill that is needed to save in finance? Like you need to really pay attention to detail and...
I think it's all encompassing. I I think it's all about discipline, because when people say, oh, I can't do this, or it's too hard, or I don't have time, I think it's a discipline. I like to work out. I schedule it. It's in my calendar. I like to eat right as well. I don't always eat right because of circumstances, but I think you need, like, it's a whole formula in order to fuel your brain, to understand, like, healthy finance, healthy body, healthy mind, right? I think it's a discipline. And I think people need to slow down, because quite frankly, rushing everywhere and not giving people or anything the proper amount of time that they deserve because you're,
on the phone,
you're on the whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that's living a healthy life. And I don't think that you are giving yourself a good life, or I think you're giving yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Well, I think the next thing for you to do is write a book, honestly.
Okay. I think you are the 100th person to tell me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I see it. You've got to do it. Maybe next year.
Yeah. I think next year, when I've got a little bit less on my plate, that might be one of the things that I look at, go up to a cottage and just do it.
Yeah. And then just to finish off our conversation, I just want to talk to you more about, I saw that you are a 2019 Wealth Professional Awards finalist.
Yes.
And it's for the Institute Award for Financial Literacy Champion.
Yes.
And can you talk to us more about what the Wealth Professional Awards are?
Yeah. So Wealth Professional is a magazine in Canada. They're worldwide, but this is the Canadian division. And
what is it like in comparison to other well-known magazines? Like, if you could compare.
It's an industry, right?
Okay.
So, if you have a fashion industry.
Yeah, can you compare it to the fashion industry?
Yeah, you can compare it to, I would assume, the best of whatever industry you have, right? Okay. They had nominations. I am now a finalist. There are 12 of us. I think it's 8 men, 4 women. And the awards are on May 30th.
Wow.
And
they're being held at a really cool venue.
Yeah, they're at the Liberty Grand on May 30th.
Wow.
And it's so funny. I was talking to my mom and she said, so what does this mean? Like, when, do people vote? What happens? I said, well, no, you got nominated. I said, so now it's down to, 12 people, and then there's judges, and they, take a look and see why you are deserving of this award. And so I said, Mom, we go to the Liberty Grand the evening of May 30th, and they, they announced the winner live at the event. And she said, oh, kind of like the Oscars. And I said, exactly. It's exactly like the Oscars.
There'll be music to like cut you off when you're up there. Like, thank you. And do you think, like, I just find it so interesting because it's an award for financial literacy. And first of all, you said that this is your first award, right?
My first nomination for anything. So
wow,
this is awesome. I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's a very exciting feeling. And so, what do you think? Really, who's the number one person that you could say contributed to you being nominated for this award? I say getting because I see you getting it. But.
Oh, thank you. From your lips to God's ears. Ding, 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 ding. I don't think it's one person. I think...
Or not, it could be thing, experience. So what do you think really helped you?
To get nominated. I know that a lot of people that nominated me came to me and said, I wanted to let you know I was at home on the weekend and I thought of you and I wanted to nominate you, or the email came by at my desktop and this is for you. I wanted to nominate you. And I think it's because I am so passionate about financial literacy.
But why? That's the question. Why?
Because I want everyone to be able to do well and have a good life. And it really bothers me when I see people suffer.
Well, so then you're a good egg too, then.
Right?
Remember when we were talking earlier?
Yeah. It bothers me to see
people don't think like that anymore.
And I think kindness it's so easy for everyone to have and give, and people don't. And, I mentor a lot of young women too.
Yep.
I have,
And you also donate blood every 84 days?
Every 84 days,
Aren't you tired?
No.
Does it make you tired?
I think it makes me look younger, quite frankly.
There's the secret, folks. There's your secret.
But yeah, I will be donating for the 59th time in June, and they just asked me to MC their big giving gala on June 14th.
Wow.
Yeah, so Canadian Blood Services asked me to do that again this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. So just going on for like who you think or the kind of experience you had that could contribute to you being nominated for this award.
I think it's the fact that I try to help a lot of people, and I don't have a sponsor. I don't have anybody giving me money for this. I actually pay for my own makeup artist and my own clothing. So I do this out of the love of educating people, and I do it because I really love it.
Nice.
Like it makes me come alive. And the other thing too is I learn. Every
That's
episode
important.
I learn something, right?
Yep.
And I mean, I go in and I tape 4 episodes in one day. So you go in, you get your makeup done, you're in your outfit, you do the show, then you go, you change, touch up your makeup, and then you've got to switch your brain to another complete topic and be excited about it. And I am, because it's really cool. Like, these female guests that come on are so knowledgeable, and they are all doing the same thing. They all have a specific focus, but they're trying to educate and teach Canadians as well. And a lot of them say, you know, I don't care if I make any money on this. I just want to make sure that, you know, people do well, because I've seen so many people cry over not having money or not understanding or being in a lot of debt and not knowing who to go to and get the right answers from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's very impressive. And, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
And allowing me to get to know you more. So, you're a big inspiration in my life, and someone to look up to, as a female in finance. They're very few and far from.
Aww.
So thank you.
Thank you. Well, my door is always open to you. You've got my cell number. You've got it all. So 24/7 for you.
Thanks. Hi, it's Grace from the CSC, reminding you to make sure to follow us on social media for the latest updates on our listed companies, as well as new listing alerts. For more in-depth content, be sure to pick up our free quarterly magazine, Public Entrepreneur, available online at thecsc.com.